There is this quiet revolution happening inside our 5G networks, and it's called Open RAN. So, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what that is, why it is such a massive game changer, and how it's about to completely reshape the entire telecom industry. Okay, so it all starts right here with a device we all use every single day. We're constantly tapping, swiping, streaming, connecting to that 5G world almost without thinking about it. But have you ever really stopped to wonder what's going on behind the scenes? What's the magic that makes that instant connection actually happen? Well, that's the complex hidden world we're about to dive into. For decades, the answer has been this piece of hardware called a base station. It's the absolutely critical link between your phone and the network. But here's the thing. Traditionally, this base station has been a totally closed, proprietary black box. All the hardware, all the software, it all came from just one single company. And this system, well, it created what you could call a walled garden in the telecom world. Once a mobile operator chose a vendor for their network, that was it. They were locked in. And this whole setup has had some massive consequences. Let's start with the money. The radio access network, or the RAN, and that's all the gear that connects your phone to the bigger network, makes up a staggering 60% of a mobile operator's total cost. It is by far the most expensive part of the whole system. And that huge cost is made so much worse by this one critical concept, vendor lock-in. Because all the parts in that black box were proprietary, an operator couldn't just swap out one piece for a cheaper or a better one from another company. Nope, they were stuck. And that limited competition, it slowed down innovation and it kept prices sky high. So the big question is, how do you break down those walls? Well, that's where this whole idea of an open network, or ORAN, comes into play. But to really get it, we first need to see how the base station itself has been changing over time. Right, so this problem didn't just pop up overnight, and the solution evolved in a few key stages. We started with that traditional all-in-one box. Then, things got a little smarter. The radio unit got separated and moved up the tower. But the biggest leap was something called virtualized RAN, or vRAN. This is where the network software was finally freed from its custom hardware, which meant it could run on regular, off-the-shelf servers, just like any other computer program. But here's the catch, and this is so important. Just because the software is virtualized doesn't mean the network is open. See, in most of those vRAN setups, the connection between the radio and the main processing unit was still proprietary. That vendor lock-in problem, it was still there. So to truly solve the problem, the industry had to take an even bigger step. It had to completely deconstruct the base station, breaking it down into open, interchangeable parts. The key concept behind this whole revolution is something called disaggregation. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like the shift that happened in the PC industry. You used to buy a computer as one sealed unit. Now you can buy a processor from one company, a graphics card from another, memory from a third, and you just know they're all going to work together. Disaggregation is all about bringing that same mix-and-match philosophy to the mobile network. So how does this actually work? Well, you take the brain of the base station, which is called the baseband unit, and you split it into two smaller, more specialized parts. One is the distributed unit, or DU, which handles all the super time-sensitive stuff right there at the tower. The other is the centralized unit, or CU, which manages the less urgent tasks and can be located further away, maybe in a data center. And here's the magic. This is the whole point. Because these functions are now separate, we can create standardized open plugs or interfaces between them. And that means an operator can finally buy a radio unit from company A, a DU from company B, and a CU from company C, and be confident that they're all going to fit together perfectly. The walled garden is officially open for business. But look, opening up the hardware is huge. But it's really only half the story. The real power of Open RAN comes from adding a whole new layer of software intelligence right on top of this flexible new setup. This new intelligent layer has a master controller, and it's called the SML. Just think of it as the air traffic control for the entire network. It sees all the different pieces from all the different vendors and makes sure they're all working together in perfect harmony. And at the very heart of the SMO is the true game changer, the RAN Intelligent Controller, or the RIC. This is basically an app store for the network. It's an open platform where any developer can create and roll out applications that use AI and machine learning to actively control and optimize the network in real time. Now, the RIC actually has two parts that work together as a team. First, you've got the strategist, which is the non-real-time RIC. It thinks long-term, it analyzes tons of data to create smart policies and train AI models. Then, it sends those plans over to the tactician. That's the near real-time RIC. The tactician is the one that executes those plans with split-second decisions, optimizing the network from one moment to the next.
Okay, so we've broken the hardware apart and we've given the network an intelligent brain. But what does that actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through an example to see how this all comes together to help you.
All right, imagine you're in a really crowded place, like a stadium, and your signal is just crawling. Here's how Open RAN fixes that with something called traffic steering. First, the network starts collecting performance data. Then, the strategist RIC analyzes that data, sees the tower is getting totally swamped, and creates a policy to fix it. It sends that policy to the tactician RIC, which immediately acts, intelligently steering your phone to a less crowded tower nearby. And the result? A way better connection for you and a smarter, more efficient network for everyone else.
So when you put all of this together, the benefits become crystal clear. Open RAN drives down costs because it finally ends vendor lock-in. It sparks this incredible wave of new innovation by creating an open platform for developers. And ultimately, it gives operators the freedom and the intelligence to build faster, more efficient, and more flexible networks for all of us.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. You know, a lot like the App Store completely revolutionized what a phone could do, Open RAN creates a new open platform for network innovation. So this isn't just about building better 5G for today, it's about creating a foundation for services and applications that we haven't even dreamed up yet.